If you use the GW Pharma as a reference point, the upside is 100x. I mean, essentially, if that was 6 billion, it's 100, it's 100x for Tetra.
And I think that would be small. I think that's
Right.
I think that's aiming low of what they could be worth actually, because the sepsis drug alone, strip everything else that they have away. If they are successful with sepsis, it's worth way more than GW Pharma is today. It would be that would be more of value to a Novartis, a Takeda, um, one of the larger players out there. I think that would be much bigger than Jazz, and much bigger than GW is today. Jazz saw that. From what I've read, some of their pipeline was slowing down. They had a couple of trials that didn't, I think, go as well. As stuff comes off patent, they needed to expand and go into other avenues of revenue. GW was that for them. So I think there's a real opportunity here, and I think if these guys are able to execute over the next 3 to 9 months, I think they will enter some of those spaces where they have a chance to monetize some of their assets.
So basically you think so? In other words, if we're talking about the same numbers as that GW comp, it's it's $20 plus on the stock.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, like, right now? Is this like, are we kind of at from your perspective? Like, what's, I mean, like, because again, a lot of investors probably watching and say, okay, well, I'm going to wait till they get approval of this or that. So, like, when is the stock? I mean, when do you think the stock is actually going to start moving? Like, when is going to be that?
Two things. I'll look at you look at the quality of some of the investors that have come in recently. Some founders of some other major corporations. They've got a chance to meet Guy and spend some time with him, understand his vision and where he's going. They didn't put money in by accident. And I think this is one of those stocks that, unfortunately, it will move some. It may move a little more if more people are anticipating a deal. But I also believe it's one of those ones that you wake up in the morning and you see it was sold. Just like GW. GW was, I think, trading about $120 a share, roughly 120, 140, and you wake up the next morning and it was sold for $225 a share or $220 a share cash. You didn't get to participate in that 100% upside because it was sold the next morning. The people that were out were out. The people that were in, got an incredible payday. And the interesting part about the entire GW deal is they've had shareholders now start a class action lawsuit believing that they're undersold. They believe it should be about $500 to $550 a share is what GW should be sold for. So they're actually trying to block the sale of GW to Jazz. So Jazz is, and GW is having to deal with that right now with some major shareholders out in New York, trying to slow it down and see if there's a better offer, obviously, or they can get more money because they believe that they undersold the asset. So if they believe it's worth more than double what it's sold for, so probably 15 billion USD. I don't know, Tetra at 60 million. Like I said, it is a rounding error, and I do believe that it'll be part of something at some point. So that's why I think he's a great one to bet on. He's not going anywhere. He's heavily incented on his comp plan by his board and his team, and they got some really good people, and I think they got some excellent shareholders that have been around for a long time. Some are new, some are old. But give them 3 to 6 months and see if he moves it forward. I did hear it from somebody that on spoke with a very senior analyst, and he said the moment that he sees Tetra put a needle in someone's arm, they're going to get very interested because they will be the first company that I've ever heard of that's ever injected a CBD product that's able, first of all, it's ever stabilized one in a soluble form and then injected into someone's arm. Nobody has ever done that in the world. So he's about to do something that's never been done. His head-to-head trial. I don't think many pharma companies really want Guy to be competing with them with morphine, with a easier-to-deliver product, safer product around the world. He's on the verge of doing that. But that's material to any investor and any patient. Then you take in what he says that he's demonstrated in a deal that he did with Canopy, which they've licensed the Storz & Bickel product to deliver, called the Mighty Medic, but to deliver a safer version of CBD or THC to patients via inhalation. So I think what he's sitting on is absolutely incredible. I think that's where GW, there's a reason why they were called an existential threat to GW. And I do believe, I'm personally watching for him to file paperwork, move forward with FDA, and try and do a head-to-head trial against, using the results of GW and doing a head-to-head trial against Epidiolex and see if they can deliver a safer, quicker method. So if he moves against morphine, He moves against Epidiolex, and then provides his drug through his ARDS program. I think that's pretty incredible. You're talking about game-changing drugs, and a lot of people don't give him credit. But the gentleman that he's working with on ARDS, he works at George Mason University. He was the former deputy director of NIH. There's no bigger platform or organization to work with other than NIH, and Dr. Leota was that. So he's working with one of the smartest minds in the space. So I like his chances of success. If they're moving forward with them beyond the studies at George Mason, I have to think they found something. And if it happens to be a therapeutic or an antiviral, I think it's going to be very valuable to it. Not just one, I would say every major pharma company out there, because who wouldn't want to buy it or to partner with them?
Yes, I mean the upside. I mean, so the upside is, again, just based on the GW comp, the upside is like 100. I mean, it's essentially the stock has 100x upside potential. There's a path to that 100x. This is
really is.
What I find compelling about it is that, okay, here is what needs to happen to get there. But why is it? Do you think? I mean, and I asked Guy this before. Maybe you can give your answer. What is it that investors are missing? What is it that they don't understand about TBP? That if they did finally it clicked, what is it missing that the stock would be $10, $20?
I think a lot of people miss how close they are, and how deep their pipeline is. Everyone keeps asking them when you're going to be in revenue. They're not a cannabis company where you don't get any revenue, any sales until you're selling. They can generate revenue on licensing deals. They can generate on milestones. You watch some other companies receive, $500 million, $1 billion, $2 billion in, between upfront and milestone payments on a phase 1, phase 2 trial. These guys have two phase 2 trials ongoing in the United States. The only 2 THC trials in all of the United States, and one of them happens to be going head to head with, with an opioid. And I can't imagine a bigger trial out there. I think this is results that the FDA is going to be very interested in. I believe that there's going to be much bigger demand on those results and eyes on it than people will ever admit to. So as soon as they move forward, I believe on their Reborn trial against morphine, I think that is going to be immediate. Remember, this is a head-to-head trial, so he's going to be able to release those results pretty imminently after he does it. This isn't a 6-9 month trial where he has to do a double blind. He doesn't get to see the results to the end. He's going to get to see those results all the way along. And if anybody remembers, in Canada, he already did it and finished a phase 2 trial. So he has a very good indication of whether this drug is going to work or not. So I don't think he went and spent another $5, $10, $15 million worth of shareholder money to finish another phase 2 unless he was pretty darn confident this phase 2 was going to work. So I'm very interested in the results on head-to-head against morphine. I think it's going to be incredible if we can find it. I think it'll be great if you can find an inhalation product that's safer, that avoids first-pass metabolism and doesn't damage livers. I think that's an excellent piece. So just those alone are material, and I think we're 30, 60, 90 days away from you sharing those results.
Okay. You said 30, 60, or 90 days is what you think?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I think there's a real chance they're in Q2, they're in trial. And I'm going to say from start to finish, within 7 to 10 days after starting a trial, he knows if it works. People know immediately. Oh
yeah, because either you feel pain or you don't feel pain, right?
That's right. It's not you're not measuring Alzheimer's where it's did it the margin for error or the margin for measuring them is really, really tough. This is a real simple one. Would you rather wait 1 to 2 hours from the time you take an oral pain relief for cancer for it to give you pain relief, or anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes to receive pain relief? And I think people are going to choose the safer and the quicker route. I know if something as simple as an Advil. I know if I got a headache, I want the extra strength, but I want the quickest dissolving one possible that'll get into my system. So okay. I think that's where he's going to win.
Okay, and so essentially, the benefits of TBP's kind of the pain relief part is that it's faster acting. In other words, it's not, instead of being an hour or half an hour, it's more or less immediate.
That's right. Typical cancer pain, the way I understand, medications are between 1 to 2 hours for pain relief once you ingest it. So he's talking a matter of minutes.
Minutes.
And,
Okay. And this is
remember also with a much lower dose, because he's
okay.
able to get it quicker in a direct route. He's able to do a much lower dose, which also is better on the liver.
Okay. And this is inhaled.
Inhale.
Inhaled. Okay.
Yeah. So like almost like taking a puffer if you have asthma, it'd be very similar.
Okay.
You know how quick your asthma relief is when you take a puffer. In this ventilator, like in the exact same situation, there's a reason why he's after this, and from a lung standpoint. So I think his inflammation products are excellent. His pain, and if you look at his last press release, they've also expanded into HIV. You know what I mean? So I don't believe he's just looking at sepsis. You know what I mean? I think there's going to be probably 10, 15 other indications that they're going to try with George Mason. And I think he's going to try and tackle other indications. Once he gets approval on one, I think he'll expand right across the board and go after, 5, 10 other indications. So can you imagine if something as simple as a natural plant or a synthetic version of it is able to provide people, relief on pain, relief on cancer? Those are pretty impressive. So yes, there's risk 100%, but there's the upside on this deal is absolutely incredible if he gets even one of these things moving forward and does one JV deal.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the reasons. One of the things I like about TBP from my perspective is okay. With our kind of next super stock platform, the idea is things where like the odds. I mean, every stock has risk, right? Anything you do in life has. You open a restaurant, it has risk, right? You never know. So we want things where the odds really are stacked in your favor, where you have high probabilities, and the upside is you got this exponential upside.
He's late stage.
Asymmetric is, excuse me, I'm using more. It's asymmetric. I mean, look, you're betting 20 cents to make $20 basically.
That's right. So when you look at it today,
I mean,
he's late stage. He's there on 15% of the money, maybe 20% of the money that GW has spent, and if he moves one of them forward, you have to understand the depth of his pipeline with 4 or 5 deep pipeline drugs that are potential $1 billion plus drugs. One approval is going to validate the rest of his pipeline. So what is the rest of the pipeline worth once he gets one through? So it's not just about getting the one through, because he could easily then JV it or sell it and dividend out that money, keep the royalty on it, and then use that to fund the rest of them. And then the company's worth an absolute fortune. So I know he's close. I like him. I respect him. I believe his team. He's got some of the best people in the country. As you mentioned, 12 years of data and research with Dr. Melanie Kelly out of Dalhousie University, one of the more respected universities in Canada. They didn't, 12 years of data and research. They have a pretty good idea, early on in the studies if it works or not. I don't think you spend 12 years on something and it doesn't work. So when I look at it, I think they've de-risked it dramatically, and I believe the results coming out here in Q2 could really open some eyes.
Yeah. So again, there's 3 things. One is that you have that asymmetric upside. Basically you have this 100x upside, right? It's pretty much like you said. It's been more or less de-risked to as much of an extent as possible. So you have a decent probability of this being of them achieving this success. And it's near term. The number 3 is the timeline, because I mean they're getting. You're saying 30 to 90 days is when.
That's right. I believe he'll be.
See that inflection point.
That's right. I think you'll have the first results back potentially within 90 days on a head-to-head trial with morphine, and I think he could be in a situation where he has the first patient injected in the world, with a drug to save their life from COVID. So it's not just COVID. But COVID's obviously a game changer alone if you find it for that.
So the COVID drug, the COVID indication is really what? That's like a placeholder for sepsis, basically.
It is. It's a door opener. It opens the door to other inflammation indications for sure. So I think he's very close on a couple of those. And take it away when you talk about risk. He's already been very clear and indicated they have one product that's moving through the final approvals in Canada. Like it'll be on the shelf in Q4. So when you want to talk about a early stage or pre-stage, like he's entering revenue in 2021.
And that's that market is what, 80 million? He said that's
80 million. So it's small,
but
but that pays the bills when you're burning cash on other stuff.
Right.
And in the biospace, you're always burning money until you got something on the shelf or you've monetized it. And I think he's very close to a monetizing event.
Okay, so I mean, I'm sure like you've talked to like, I mean, who you've talked to other, like, I don't know, either biotech analysts, people in the business. Who have you talked to that's kind of understands the space? What's their perspective on this?
It's funny you say that. I definitely have introduced Guy to a few people, and I've asked some questions as well. And some gentlemen, whether it was from, someone as simple as Bruce Linton. Bruce was the first one to say to me, he goes, Sean, he goes, they're moving stuff through regulatory approvals like at an impressive rate. And what they're doing and what they're working on, if this moves forward, he goes, they're going to get a serious payday. He goes, there's a real opportunity here and an opportunity. He goes, and I like Guy. He goes, I would actually really like to see him, move this forward and advance, the medicine within the space. So Bruce is just one example, someone that
Bruce Linton.
Yeah, there's not many people that Tetra isn't on their radar. I remember Tetra has a deal with Canopy for their Mighty Medic, which is storage and Ubiquit product. So their supplier of their inhalation product, the device, is actually Canopy.
Do you think that maybe like the market in terms of, I think the audience for, do you think because maybe Tetra kind of got lumped in with the cannabis stocks instead of being a seen as a biotech or pharma stock?
That was for sure part of it. I think initially part of their investor base as well was a typical cannabis company, stock, and all of a sudden it's a pharma stock. So very tough to understand. I think definitely misunderstood. If they were to come out today as a clean shell and doing a new RTO or an IPO on the Nasdaq, I think they'd be trading at 10 times what they are today. At a minimum, I think they'd be able to come out fresh, clean. But through the transition and where they are, that's why the stock's where it was. Trading on the venture for a number of years, trying to get people to understand biotech and pharma. It's a bit tough. I don't think the strength in the core shareholder base was there, and I think that's why companies like GW Pharma and stuff are further ahead. So, mind you, they've been at it a long time. They've been at it a lot longer, and they spent a lot more money. So if Tetra spent a little more time and a little more money, there's the potential payday for both the patients and the shareholders. I believe is incredible.
Okay. Sure. How many shares do you own of Tetra, if I may ask?
Quite a few, actually, over the years. I've accumulated a lot.
What's a lot? Are we talking a couple million? What are we talking about?
More than that. And I've had a lot of friends, a lot of family, a lot of people I care about that are in the stock. So it's one that I think is going to be a material win for a lot of people. And you're going to have patience, and you're going to have to respect the science. I don't think if anybody digs deep and understands these, they're real. They're not a pump and dump. They're working on something that is potentially life changing for a lot of people, and how close they are to major catalysts. I don't know any other company today that's in 2 phase 2 trials that's trading at $60 million market cap. Canadian. So it's less than that on the American side. So one of those trials move forward. It's more than a 10x just on that. Like that would only take it to $1.70. That's actually ridiculous. But and he's very likely, and I do believe he will come out early with some initial results. I think he will indicate to the market very quickly on his head-to-head trial against morphine. And if he does, and let's say that's Q2, or even if it's early Q3, what happens in 30, 60, 90, 120 days if a company with a $60 million market cap comes out and says, I'm able to demonstrate safer, quicker results than morphine with my patients?
It's a multi-billion-dollar valuation overnight.
That's right. And if they come out then and say, our product works on COVID, I've now injected the first ever soluble cannabinoid in the world in someone's arm, and I saved their life from COVID. And now I'm going to test it on sepsis. Pretty sure it's not 60 million market cap at that point. I think the upside is exponential, and I would love to see that for the employees of Tetra, the shareholders, and the patients.